Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Eno. I am the Vibes Officer here at Sanctum. We are going to get this show on the road started very, very shortly. But first, of course, have to bring on my very, very good friend, Nick. Hey, Nick, how are you today?
Hey, all good. Glad to be
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
Talking
We
today.
are just going to. Ooh, you have the Sanctum shirt on.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see who's here in the stream. Oh my gosh. JD is here. Hey, JD. Good to see you. We honestly really, really missed you, buddy. I know that you're doing great things over in the Jupiverse. We anticipate that we'll see you over at the Sanctosphere very soon. But of course, it's always good to see JD. JD, for people who don't know, is an OG member of the Cloud Fam, and he's now doing amazing things with Jupiter. But of course, I'll be seeing him at the Jupiter event in New York. I guess we'll be playing some putt golf. And I just want to say it's always very, very good to see you, JD. He's done amazing things for Sanctum in the past, and I think will continue to do so in the future. So just wanted to say thank you for all the effort that you've put in, JD. Also, we have some very, very good and familiar faces here. We have Johnny the Clown. Hi, Johnny. Yo. How are you? And of course, Nick, I'm going to take you off stage for just a second if you don't mind. We have a very special guest here, and he's looking extremely handsome as usual. 3, 2, 1. Hi, how are you, FP?
Great, glad to be here.
Yeah. So
Long
before
time
I
no
know
see.
usually I just jump right into it, but I want to gather the biggest audience possible. So, we're just going to be going through some of the comments and just welcoming some of the folks on the stream. And of course, we'll get right into it very soon. Italo says, Nick looking very good here. Italo, of course, is the founder of Iron Forge. And I just saw a tweet that he actually won't be making it to New York, which is, such a shame. But at the same time, he's on the road to fatherhood. So that's like a very exciting development. And this guy, are you guys matching glasses? So cute. Yes, it is very cute. I appreciate that, Italo. And of course, we have other OG Cloud Fan members here, including Lucio. Hi, Lucio. It's very good to see you. He, of course, works on Sanctum Spectrum, which is a art initiative in the Sanctosphere. Always glad to see Lucio's energy. And Scarlett, hi. It's very good to see you as well. A lot of good OG folks, including a big name. JD's here as well, and W. He always has some of the best comments, I think, on the Sanctum forecast. Hello, guys. Looking forward to hearing what you've been cooking. I, as well, am very, very excited to see what we are cooking, and I will give you firm updates. But now, FP, I'm going to take you off the stage for a bit so that maybe you can do a little bit of thinking. You already know that you will be in the second half of the forecast, but we're going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 14th Sanctum forecast. I am so excited to be here. There's a lot of updates to cover. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes in the company and questions, right, from the community about what's going on. Trust me, the comms plan is lit. We're going to be telling you everything that's going on in the Sanctosphere, giving you very, very clear updates. But first and foremost, let's get right to it. We, of course, have the Sanctum forecast every week at 1400 hours UTC. Obviously, I got rugged by the Wi-Fi today here in Toronto, but fortunately, it was only a 30-minute delay, so really appreciate your patience. If you're watching the stream, what would really help is if you retweeted the stream, just saying that you're on the Sanctum forecast. It helps a lot with viewership, and we have so many exciting updates today. It would be such a shame if we had clouds out there who were curious, but just had no idea that the forecast was delayed by 30 minutes today. So really appreciate anybody out there who can retweet the stream. So moving forward, hi, I'm the Vibes Officer of Sanctum. Obviously, I like to keep the energy very positive and high over here. And why are we here? Well, we are gathered here today to talk about all things related to the Sanctosphere. And we throw this term around Sanctosphere quite a bit, but what exactly does that mean, right? Well, it means three things. Number one, we talk about bullish news, like all of the developments going on both inside Sanctum as well as the external partnerships that we have that should make you bullish not only in Sanctum, but Cloud as well. Secondly, we talk about all the delightful products that we build. In fact, I strongly believe that Sanctum builds the best product on Solana, and I think that we don't get enough credit for it, but we also have to be doing a much better job talking about some of the beautiful products that we're building. And of course, we're here to talk about the Sanctum governance machine. I know that there are quite a few people who have questions about ASR as well as Futarchy and what is the future of Sanctum governance. That's still chugging along, but certainly there have been a rearrangement of priorities that have required us to focus much more on systems-based thinking, right? Sometimes there's this desire, I think, to hop on to the most urgent thing. But like truly, we've been focused on what we believe to be the big ticket items that will make the biggest difference, not only to Sanctum as a company in terms of revenue, but also cloud holders as well as community, et cetera, et cetera. And we're ready to take this next step, right? And of course, we're doing it all with the most earnest Cloud fam. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Really appreciate it. And of course, the core objective here of these calls is to build Sanctum together as one big family. And I mean that sincerely. And I'm going to bring FP back on if you don't mind. So, FP, I would just like to say, right, like we're not the type of team, I think, that wants to do everything in a black box, right? Like it's very much that we love to hear community feedback. Obviously, there are very specific asks that we have that we'll make later in the call. So without tapping into that, would just love to hear your general philosophy about community feedback, why that matters, and how you kind of see Sanctum in that way.
I think the big question is why we're here, right? And I think like why are we building in this space? And I think like the most important thing is that if I think Mel said this, like, it's like we build the product for the community that we want. And I think in crypto there's a lot of like shady stuff that goes on, right? There's a lot of insider trading, a lot of market manipulation, right? We saw a few high profile examples in the previous weeks, but it happens quite often. And I think for me, like the thing that keeps me going, right, is to gather really the good people, right, the earnest people, the cloud fam, right, under our umbrella, right, and just like make them rich, make them happy, make them fulfilled, right. And I want us to be an oasis for the good people in the space, right, to show the world that we can still win without having to play the dirty game, right. And I think that like why are we building all of this stuff is to make money for sure, right? But at the same time, like there's many ways to make money. Why are we building this particular product, right? Why are we building like LSCs for everybody? I think a lot of that comes down to like my own desire to serve like a particular segment of users that I think are very underserved in crypto, and really reward these people. So to answer your question, I think why is it so important to get community feedback? Because these are the people that we're building for, right? Like the cloud family, you guys, right? Whether it's like token holders or INF holders or Jupsol holders or what have you, right? Like it's super important to get your feedback, because then it's I know like am I doing a good job at serving you well? And if you're not happy, right, I've got to fix it, right? And if you're happy, okay, how can we do better? So
I mean, just to give you a sense of how happy people are right now, always refreshing to hear FP. We have other people who are like, FP! Nick, I'll take care of the comments for a second. And also, I like this one. He looks 15 years younger. I should
have done this. Can I say...
Yeah, sure. And then Italo, of course, is I like FP more when he had long hair.
He's wrong. So I'll tell you, this is a good example of listening to customer feedback. So I've actually had short hair for a long time, but most people in this space know me as having long hair. And this was actually like a 2 or 3 year long experiment when I decided, it was like a COVID thing. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna grow long hair, right? And like just like pretty much everyone told me to cut it. My grandmother told me to cut it because she thought it made me look like a woman. My mom told me to cut it because she thought she's like, you don't wash your hair enough, it smells, right? Like there's all these feedback, and I got like eventually I listened to like my customer feedback, which is not my grandmother and my mom, but like really girls that I'm going out and trying to go on dates with, right? And they're like, you know what, you look much better if you cut your hair. And so I finally listened to customer feedback, and I'm pleased to report that so far the reception has been positive. So this is an example of why you should always listen to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Great illustration of willing to take feedback. And, I work with a lot of founders in the space, both as a kind of like, obviously at Sanctum and at my previous startup and mentoring many teams. But the one thing I'll say that makes FP quite unique is he actively is looking for that feedback. I feel like a lot of folks, they are content to just allow the universe to come to their doorstep and tell them, hey, we don't like this. And then they'll take the feedback there. And some of the best founders do that. But I've never met someone who like quite so actively will reach out to someone and be like, hey, like, I respect your opinion on this thing. So would you mind giving me your feedback? And so like FP has this very, very wide network of what I would call many mentors, in a sense, right? Where it's like that there are people in your mind who, I guess, occupy a certain sort of like positioning in your head for like this person is uniquely qualified to answer this particular problem or idea that like I want feedback and idea. So I've really enjoyed that particular piece of working with you, quite frankly, is just the willingness to take. We might not agree all the time, but that's okay. I mean, that's totally fine. It's like, why should people agree all the time? It's just like the most important thing is that you're actively searching for the feedback. So I just really appreciate that, brother. Yes. Okay, so we are going to go back into the forecast. We will see you in just a second, FP. Moving forward, of course, we're here to build Sanctum together as one big family, and that feedback is the engine that really drives, I think, some of the ideas that we have at Sanctum, especially on the consumer side. But to be clear, we're working much more on the B2B side these days, and we've talked about this for several weeks, but we will continue to shout about it so that you guys never forget. And of course, we have house rules here, and the first house rule is that we really love you to spam the chat, especially since we have such an old friend here, the founder of Sanctum, the chief cloud himself, FP here. I think it'd just be great to show him a lot of love. And of course, Giancarlo says, FP with the TradFi hair. I totally agree. He could work at a bank, but he doesn't because he's out here to change the world, not work for crusty, money-hungry, old school bankers. All right. So moving on from spamming the chat, we need you to think long-term. Obviously, there have been some movements in cloud, but of course, it's best practice to not really fixate on price, because even this positive movement that we might have seen quite recently is not the real work. The real work is working on the fundamentals. And if you get your fundamentals right, when markets shift towards positive momentum, it means that we can capture and ride the wave, and optimize our opportunities there. So of course, we should always be thinking long term. And look, it is a positive week, right? But at the same time, like, that's really what we should not be focused on. That's not something I say only when things look bad. It's also something that I will continue to say even when things look great, right? So I'm just saying that we should encourage ourselves to think more long term and not get so bogged down by smaller items. And of course, we want you guys to be thoughtful and kind. I think that that's one of the key characteristics of people who have joined the Sanctosphere. The Cloud Fam are obviously people who have bought into this idea of earnestness, to being kind to one another, and doing good in the world. So like, I just appreciate you guys being a part of that mission. And last but not least, we want you to have a good time, because if you're not having a good time, then like, why even work in this space? Like, we could do all sorts of things with our lives. Like, shoot, I could be out golfing and like running a restaurant, but like, you do this because it's fun. And truly, like, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm running on this week probably close to 12 hours of sleep, and that's totally fine. Like, because I'm actually having a good time. I wake up in the morning and everything is on fire and I'm taking a million calls, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it, because it feels like I'm working towards a larger goal. And again, a part of this call is just expressing to you guys and communicating to you what those larger goals are. Of course, the best forecast thread on the Sanctum forecasts get 50 USDC. We've been running this giveaway / program for the last, I don't know, about 2 months now, and we super really appreciate the folks that have been writing the forecast threads. And the winner of the best forecast thread of the week goes to none other than Hillary. Hillary, thank you so much for your thread this week. I know that you have actually been writing forecast threads for a number of weeks. I believe this is your first time winning. So again, major congratulations to Hillary. We will, of course, be sending you your 50 USDC. Thank you so much for writing such a killer thread. If you guys want an example of what it looks like to write a killer thread, please scan that QR code and you can get some inspiration for this forecast. In fact, we would love to just see more threads in general, right? We might up the reward a little bit. But again, congratulations to Hillary. So hype. Everybody in the chat, let's get a W for Hillary. Just put your finger right over the W key and press W, because he certainly deserves it with the amount of work that he puts into these threads. Moving on. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about two main things, right? One is Lightning Strike, where we're talking about some of the bigger developments in the Sanctosphere, especially where like we've been focusing a lot of our attention, and then what to expect, kind of bigger picture questions. So we're going to start off with Lightning Strike right here. And of course, we have a very sexy video for you. You know that we like to prepare video, collateral stuff that for you folks to look at. I like to think that we have some of the best video game in the world. But anyways, without further ado, Sanctum in New York. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special night planned out in New York. I know that there are quite a few people on the stream who actually will be joining us in Accelerate New York. Obviously, it is a huge gathering of Solana builders as well as community members to push forward the ecosystem in America. And the reason why there's such a focus on America right now is because we are in a unique historical moment where, for the first time in recent memory, the United States has very much taken the handcuffs off, right, when it comes to crypto acceleration. And in fact, what I've heard and the word on the street is many policymakers are surprisingly receptive to the developments specifically on Solana. That's just what people say, speaking to the offices of different congressmen as well as some regulators who will be joining us over Accelerate. And so, we put a lot of thought into what a Sanctum event looks like. And what really matters to us at Sanctum is that we're all about signal, right? There's certainly it's very fun to drink on someone else's dime, but that's not what a Sanctum event is all about. A Sanctum event is all about getting together the most high signal people, right? We're not looking to have like a 200, 300, 400, 500 person party with a DJ and like champagne bottles with candles everywhere and fireworks. Like, that's all good and dandy, and there's a place for that, I suppose, for some kind of projects, but for us, really, it's all about high signal. So what exactly does that look like? Well, on Thursday of next week, May 22nd, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Delancey, we have a very, very highly curated night with some top tier Solana projects, which include Drift, Orca, Bonk as well. They'll be coming to pitch to liquid funds, to VCs, to institutions, allocators of all kinds. We've been reaching very, very deep into our network, as well as tapping into some of our partners in the ecosystem who we are philosophically aligned with, to throw the inner Sanctum, a liquid pitch night. So if any of you folks on this stream happen to have any allocator friends with deep bags who you'd like to invite over to this event, please send over the Luma over to them. You can scan this QR code over here, so you can get the link and share. And very, very excited for this event over in NYC. It is one of our first major events in NYC, even though the team has spent quite a few months in NYC as a part of the first cohort of the Solana Incubator. But yes, I'm very surprised about how much traction this event has gotten in a very short amount of time. So if you're in New York and you're in the allocator space, I really encourage you to apply. And of course, next up, we have a Sanctum Lightning Talk live stream. If you scan this QR code over here, it'll take you to Illuma for FP's talk. FP will be giving a talk on the West Coast stage. For those of you who don't know how the Accelerate venue layout looks like, there are two stages. One side is for policy, and it's more it's called Washington and New York. And the other side is for hardcore builder projects, right? People who have updates about what exactly it is they're doing in the state of their projects. And so FP has a lightning talk. It's all going to be on live stream. If you want the details, I do not control the Luma. The Solana Foundation controls the Luma, but it's really innovative. What they've done this time around is, instead of giving you just a schedule, what they've done is they've turned each talk into a Luma. So that way you can add it to your calendar. And if you happen to be awake and you see it in your calendar, I really encourage you to join the live stream. It would be a great way to see all the greatest updates that we have over at Sanctum. And next, we're going to be talking. Yeah, we're kind of taking over the ecosystem. I don't know. I'm going to just kind of brush my shoulders off here a little bit and take a little credit. We've been working very closely with Cash, and of course, Cash had brought back the Solana ecosystem call yesterday. We had 20,000 viewers, and of course, we were talking about some of the global events around the world. And one of the most important events, I think, in the ecosystem is bringing together builders to capital and capital to builders, and that's the Inner Sanctum over at Accelerate NYC. So that was really fun to do, and it was fun to, quite frankly, show a Sanctum in front of 20,000 people. Okay, so what to expect? We're going to bring back our illustrious leader, FP. Hello. Hi, FP. Okay, you're back. I know. You don't really need an introduction, but just in case anyone's living under a rock, you can go over to FP's Twitter page, Soul Economist. He is, of course, the chief cloud of Sanctum, the undisputed leader, a man of many talents as well as insight, and a prolific writer. And writing is thinking. So not only is he a prolific writer, he's a prolific thinker. So please, W's in the chat for FP, everybody. Tell him how much you love his hair and how handsome he looks, because he looks very good these days. And I think the first thing that we want to talk about FP, and this is something that you wanted to make sure that we paid specific attention to. And I think that we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this slide. But calling all cloud holders, we're putting together a very curated group with direct access to senior Sanctum leadership. We want to hear your voice, make Sanctum a better place. And of course, the requirement for this group is that you have over 1 million in cloud or S cloud. So before we go straight into that, like FP, what you want to tell us a little bit about your thoughts about this group, about cloud? Like we'll go deep into it. This would be a very calm, rational discussion.
Yeah. So let me tell a little bit about kind of like what this is for, and what's the thinking behind it. So really, what we've been doing these past 2 quarters has been really razor focus on product, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And now I want to turn my attention to kind of like token holders, right? Because token is product. And what I really want to do is that I really want to, well, as you said, sort of like solicit feedback, and really like what do people feel about the token, right? How can we do better, right? Like what's good, what's not good, like what can I say, what can we do, right? And I think part of that is like I want to have like very, very deep one-to-one conversations with these people, not with with cloud holders, right? And not just as a cloud holder level, but like what about like who are you, right? Like what makes you tick? Like what are you worried about? Like who are you as a person? Because that's what we at Sanctum really, really care about. Like we care about like the person behind the bag. Like you're not just like a bag, you're not just like a wallet empty, right? Like that's not right. We care about the person behind, and like to understand, right? Like who are you, why you hold cloud, right? And how we can like improve your life in any way, not just like in the cloud way. And well, the problem is that my bandwidth is a little like my bandwidth is quite limited nowadays. And so I want to kind of roll this out slowly. And so like there are not that many people who hold like 1 million plus cloud. And so I want to start with this very small curated group first before before we kind of like expand this to every single cloud holder, even someone who holds one cloud, right? But I just don't have the resources to do that right now, and I want to offer the best experience that I can. I want to clarify because there are some kind of like questions about this. Like this is not like a secret alpha chat, right? Like so we are not going to disclose any material, non-public information that that people will be privy to, right? That like these guys won't get no kind of like advantage, right? In that sense. So they will hear about product announcements and other strategic decisions at the same times that you guys will, that everyone else will. I mean, but the really it's more like to hear you out, right? To have one-to-one, and if you're concerned, if you have questions, right, we try and hear you out, and that way.
Yeah. So I mean, there a lot of people kind of wonder like why we don't talk about cloud more, right? So I just want to be very direct with the feedback that we get. I think the best way to dispel any suspicion, and suspicion comes with absence of information, right?
Yes.
Is to just be very direct about it, right? And I definitely have my thoughts on like why we don't like shout about cloud from the rooftops in the same way that Jupiter does, right? Like Jupiter, it's like everything that they talk about is almost related to the token, right? Whereas like I feel like in the past we've been much more cautious, much more conservative, and quite frankly, much more considered. No disrespect. So just wondering, what are your thoughts about like our cloud communications and like what we look to do in the future to improve them?
Yeah, so I think it all starts with like hearing what people want, like taking in the information and hearing what people want to hear. So I've been actually actively soliciting feedback on people on Telegram, on Discord, and trying to answer these questions. The kind of like elephant in the room here is that there are certain things that we are not sure if we can say like legally, right? At this point, right? Like it's like not that we don't want to say them, it's that we are sort of like there's a there are some lines that we are not comfortable crossing right now until we get sort of like the say so from council and so on, and so like that's part of the reason I think, but also I mean, and this is I think we take it on ourselves, right? We made a conscious decision to focus on product, and maybe like you can like was that a mistake, should we have done this or that, but I think we focus on product that's been paying dividends so far, and I will talk about that a little bit, but yeah, it was like a conscious focus to shift a product, and now that product is in a better place in my opinion, right? I can shift a little bit to talking more about the token.
Yeah. And also, without going into the nitty gritty of this, because I don't really think it's all that important and to say like who is doing what, but I just want to say even internally on the team, right? Like a lot of to your point, and there are people I want to talk about right now, but can't talk about these people. We have cool people who are working on building the fundamental base and structure for Sanctum Core. And that work has been progressing very, very nicely, right? And I actually think that parts of that we can talk about. I mean, there's some parts that we can't talk about, but but perhaps we can talk maybe about microservices, right? Perhaps we can talk about just generally speaking. I know that not everyone here is technical, but there are certainly some people here who would appreciate, I think, some engineering updates because there's been, you folks might have noticed the Sanctum forecast, like I used to do, and Sanctum, cranks out a lot of really delightful consumer product, right? But recently, it's been a big refocus on infrastructure, right? And actually, FP wrote this really beautiful essay about how one of our founders of Sanctum was losing his hair, just literal clumps of his hair is just like landing on the desk, and FP thought it was a rat. So, like maybe FP, you can kind of expand on that and tell that story.
Yeah. So, I think. Okay, the long and short of it, right, is that like the things that you need to do in order to execute as a scrappy startup of like 5 people, right? You usually just like, okay, ship it, right? Like and and that's like that there's definitely like room for that, and you need to do kind of like that stuff, right? But as we were like getting into like, like this is like tech, in the industry we call it tech debt, right? It's like it's stuff that you just patch together and just like ship it, right? Just so that you can like, get it out there, right? And see if people actually want the product or not. But like, I think at this point, it's clear that yes, people want their own sort of like, they all want to issue their own like SOL token, they want to issue their own LST, right? And it's clear kind of like that. And the thing about tech debt is that it always comes due sooner than you think, right? And so the stuff that we were writing the code, right, like bad code, right, to get it out the door is no longer fit for purpose when you have like billions of dollars under your custody. And it's not that, I mean, to be clear, we didn't like shortcut safety or anything, right? It's like contracts. You never sort of like cut any corners with that. But it's more like the infrastructure around the thing. So like we had things like the APY was not displaying correctly, right? The APY is the APY, and that doesn't change. But like the way in which we calculated the APY and displayed the APY, that had a lot of like issues. We had sort of like cranks not running. We have to land a lot of transactions a lot of the time because like and obviously as the number of LSTs increases, right, then the infrastructure burden gets crazy, right? So we had something like the number of LSTs like early last year you can count with like these 2 hands, and now we have like over 1,000, right? And so all of that, like the infrastructure needs to be scaled up, needs to be more robust, right? So it's like all of this stuff, and that needs to be like slowly like worked through, and we basically had to kind of gut the whole system, rewrite the whole thing, which takes a long time. It doesn't look flashy, but it's kind of like it's really needed in order to kind of like accelerate and also provide the guarantees that the next level of like partners will require, right? They'll be like, what's your SLA? Like, what's this? Like, is it reliable? And these we can only answer these questions to their satisfaction if we have a much more robust engineering system. And then the last thing is that it also reduces developer frustration, right? And it increases code velocity. So if you have like a if your house is falling apart and you want to add like a patio to it, right? It's like you can't because you're trying to get out of the house and the freaking beams are falling on you and everything. Right? It's like, but if you have a nice house, a nice foundation, right, and you want to add something, no problem. Just stroll out with your toolbox and build it there. And that's kind of like what we're laying the foundations for kind of like what comes next, and we can confidently execute that like a lot quicker. Whatever it is that we decide to build next.
Yeah, another mental framing that I think would be quite useful for people who are wondering what we're doing behind the scenes is that we are building infrastructure, internal infrastructure that, and up until now, it's just been all ambition and no like. I mean, no, I shouldn't say it's just been all ambition and we like. But the things, again, FP put this beautifully. The things that you have to do as a scrappy startup are very different if you want to pitch BlackRock. Okay, and like we have. some serious partners that we work with already. Okay, we work with Jupiter, we work with Crypto.com, we work with Bybit, we work with some of the biggest players in the space. But like, let's say that we want to onboard another 20 of those folks, right? And like, let's say that we have somebody who could potentially do, millions, if not, tens of millions in volume for their LST, right? Like on a daily basis, something. I'm not so sure our infrastructure, like even 3, 5, 6 months ago, could have withstood that test. But now I feel that there's a lot of confidence internally that we've built out a really firm, strong foundation. And it doesn't just apply to, like, why are we even talking about this? Like, why are we talking about laying out a strong base for the engineering, right? I think that also equally applies to what is going on internally as it pertains to communications as well as our business development strategy. Like, there's a lot of slow grind, difficult work that needs to be done to set up process, to set up workflow. And I am a really, really firm believer in the adage of measured twice, cut once. And I know when people feel urgent and they feel like everything is important, they're just like, go, 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 go. Please tell me about cloud right now and what you're doing with it. But what would be much better, right, is to be thoughtful, be intentional. No one said that you have to be a tortoise. But you certainly don't want to just be shooting from the hip all the time, because that's how you end up with situations like in the engineering context, like tech debt that breaks your infrastructure, right? So in that very real sense, we're being very intentional about how we message cloud, as well as like what we're doing on the kind of like institutional side, right? So just bring this slide back up again. Oops, just bring this slide back up. We are so where we are in the process for cloud holders, right, FP, is to get as many larger cloud holders who you have the bandwidth for to talk to. And of course, the plan over time, is to reduce that requirement so you're talking to more and more folks and you're getting more and more signal. So I'm just, is there anything else you'd like to say about gathering all these cloud holders?
No.
Okay,
not right
all
now.
right. And again, it's not an alpha chat, okay? Like there is no cabal. I love you. there's no cabal. This is simply just a way for us to understand what people, and you know what? FP only has the band because FP's busy. FP's doing FP shit. But I am actually much more available. So if you have less than 1 million cloud, we should create a competing whale chat, right? It's
Like a dolphin
we'll call
chat,
it the dolphin chat. Yeah, we'll create the dolphin chat. If you're a dolphin and you got less than 1 million cloud, but more than like let's say 100,000 cloud, message me, and then I mean that. If you have more than 100,000 cloud, but less than 1 million cloud, like we will create like a token chat, and specifically like I think what we're trying to understand is like what you want to hear about cloud. And I can't promise that we're going to do all the things that you request because of legal considerations as well as what we feel comfortable with as people. But at the same time, like we do want to take those suggestions very seriously. And moving on, we have a series of 3 questions that we get quite often on Discord, on Telegram, on Twitter. And we'd like to just lay it all out for you because again, the best way to dispel any amount of suspicion or maybe questions of bad intent is to just be very, very open with it. So what is the team working on? Well, we already covered this a little bit in broad strokes, right? It's very much revamping the communications plan as it pertains to like our products, our services, cloud, governance, ASR, etc., as well as building out the fundamental infrastructure for Sanctum from now until infinity, pun intended. And I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you would like to add to what we were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be brief. But like kind of like if you look at the outside, right? I think everyone might say that Sanctum is a good and successful company, right? So if you look at the progress for the past year, before we started, right, the number of LSTs less than 10, now they're over 100, right? We are the 6th largest protocol on Solana, and I think like the top 25 across all of crypto in the world. So we have almost like $2 billion in TVL, and not just TVL, but our revenues are also at all-time high, and we are a profitable company. And I think the set of profitable companies in crypto is like this. So we are in a good spot, right? And you might think that we are successful, because we work with all the great protocols. We have a lot of TVL, right? We make a good, decent revenue, but we are not even like 1% like at where we want to be. Right. And to get from 1% to 99%, we need to clearly account for all of our problems, right, that are holding us back. And we need to take like bold bets to get us from 1% to 99%. So that in broad strokes, that's what we worked on, right? And we've really kind of covered some of these problems, right? The team was too small. There was a lot of tech debt, right? Because the team was too small. The company culture, right? We were missing several sort of key pieces. The company culture needed to change, right? It wasn't good enough. Again, it was what it was because of the scrappiness of the startup, and that's right. But now that we are a certain size, it wasn't good enough. We need to be a machine. We need to execute a lot better, right? We need to be like at the top with the top dogs. And so like we made kind of like several bold bets, right? So we grew the team, right? We don't just grow the team, because we want to grow the team. We grow the team like strategically. We make like several key hires. Is one of them, right? Thank God. And now he runs the podcast. So I knew like I can't be having weekly. Like, I can't run like weekly podcasts. Jay can run weekly podcasts. And who's the best person at running podcasts? It's like So we got him, right? Very strategic. We made an acquisition, right? Which had unannounced acquisition.
Whoa,
right?
dude! Yo, chill. What the heck? What did? Okay, guys, you didn't hear that. Relax. Moving on. Could you imagine if I had said that? You would kill me. If I had said that, you would have killed me. All right. Anyways, okay, whatever. But yes,
so, it was a strategic decision. And that to build.
Just sorry, we're having a Sanctum moment right now. Reset.
Okay. Made several strategic hires, right? to fix the kind of like engineering team, and we grow the engineering team, and now it's like a really well-oiled machine. And if you look at some of the posts, you notice that actually we brought him on for comms, right? And he's now juggling, but he's been doing BD as well. So we bring a lot of like people onto the sales team. If you see the post, right, we are building now this sales machine just like we have the engineering machine, right? We made the very bold decision to kind of like stop all product development in Q2 so that we could migrate the infrastructure. It's something that we just talked about. And all of this stuff is like, what does it take to get us from the 1% to the 99%, right? Where do we get from here to all the way there? So that is what the team is working on. Again, right, there's one thing that we are building that we cannot talk about right now. It's not the time. But yeah, there is that one product that we think will provide a lot of value to our customers. And when the time is right, I look forward to sharing that with you guys.
Yeah, I realize now that we can talk about the thing without talking about the thing and like why it impacts so much of what we do at Sanctum. No, I'm being serious. Like I actually have been kind of dying to talk about this, but I realize that there's finally a way to talk about it without talking about it. And what I mean is that because of a couple of redacted initiatives that we absolutely cannot discuss, right? Because of these redacted initiatives, there are parts of the comms plan, like, because the community, you guys are dying for context and information and what does the future look like, and these redacted initiatives are very much the cornerstone to what we are trying to build for the future. And so like we are giving you all the updates that we can around LST infrastructure, around like what we're doing around LST growth, both on the DeFi side as well as partners that we're working with, right? But to be very clear, there is a much larger, grander, expansive vision that we actually scoped out like a month and a half ago, if not 2 months ago. Like we've already we are all aligned internally in terms of like what the direction is. It's just a matter of like, when are we ready to announce those things? And we just need a little bit of patience. But again, repeating the old adage, measure twice, cut once. So we will be very considered. And when we decide to cut, it's going to be a very precise, very sharp, and very clean cut. And it's going to be a wonder to behold, pun intended. Okay, so that should, I think, answer the question of what exactly is the team working on, because there's a lot of very reasonable guys. I'm on your side here. I think a lot of the questions that people ask all the time is very. I get where it's coming from 100%. And like, there is a lot of pain on our side wanting to immediately correct and immediately answer. But I suppose this time around, really, we are much more focused on making sure we do it the right way. And then the second question that people ask is, when is the next proposal? You know, you guys had this big splashy announcement for Futarchy and governance. Like, do you still care? Is that something you want to do? Like, you guys voted on ASR and had that approved. Like, where is that information? We'll get into ASR in a second, but I think first things first, like, when is the next proposal? And in fact, you've already drafted it, but just kind of wondering, you know, what do we want to tell the people about when that next proposal may be?
Yeah, so this will be a little bit of a, I think, downer, right? Which is that I kind of want to hold that off, right? So the answer is like, I don't know. And let me kind of like give a little bit of context, right? In basically, you know, like there's like over the past few months, as you know, as is clear, right? We've made the hard decision to pull back a lot and focus on kind of winning what we need to right now, right? To really get the team to a level to execute, right? And to execute like a few bold bets in like a world-class manner. And unfortunately, like a consequence of this is that our plans have changed and we're no longer prioritizing a lot of things that we wanted to do at the start. And you know, I kind of want to apologize like for not communicating this change sooner, because like every time we announce something and then we don't follow through or we don't update like good enough, right? Our holders and supporters take a little bit of damage. And you know, this like we got to do better on this. So yeah, like I actually have like the proposal draft up, but I want us, I would like to ask the community to like to give us a little bit of time. I can't promise when it'll come out, but like yeah, we are currently very, very focused on the product right now, and that's why the proposal is delayed.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean to say that like we've canceled ASR, right? Like that is completely categorically untrue. And that's, I think, the really important point, because I think people are actually quite forgiving and okay with the proposal being delayed. It's just that with the proposal being delayed, that creates a lot of very reasonable questions about ASR, right? And I think that's the real crux of the issue. But we're going to answer both. But just to be really clear here, guys, it's like ASR is still alive and well. So FP, you want to we even have a sync discussion coming up very soon internally about you know the exact comms for ASR, correct?
Yeah, so ASR, to be clear, ASR is a promise that we made, and we fully intend to keep that promise, right? So a lot of people has been asking, when is the ASR claim, right? Now, here are some updates, right? The ASR claim page has been fully designed. The tech team is working on it right now, and I don't want to promise a date because these things have a tendency to slip, but it is coming soon. So there's the first batch of the ASR that will be coming, right, to folks like soon. Again, right, it's been designed. Tech team is building it right now. It is coming soon. Yeah. So that will be the first 15 million cloud that will be, and we'll have announcement. You know, Nick has prepped the announcement. We've all looked at it, so that will go out soon enough. But yeah, so that will be the ASR. Now, for the next batch of ASR, this will be a little like give us a little bit more time. I will communicate right now that we will not start it immediately after the first ASR claim. And the reason is, as we said, right, we are really busy with Accelerate and the product decisions, and we have that one product that we want to ship ASAP so that we can announce it to everybody. So give us some time. But at least the first, take home message, the first batch of ASR is coming as we promised. Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate that. Those are all the major updates by our fearless leader, the Chief Cloud, FP. FP, are there any closing words or things that you feel like you want to cover, or do you want to talk a little bit about New York and how do you feel going back to New York? By the way, you must feel. No, I'm being serious. Like I feel like New York was. I mean, if you don't mind, we talk so much about like what's going on with Sanctum. I'd like to just have like a little bit of a personal moment, if that's okay. And I'd just love to know, like, how does it feel to be going back to New York?
This is a good question, because I always have one-to-ones with people and nobody ever asks me how I'm doing. So maybe, I appreciate that.
It can be quite lonely being at the top. I understand that. I get it.
Yeah. That's a good question. I never thought about this, but it's been 1 year since I left New York for the last time, right? And I think beyond proud of what we've managed to do, like from last year until now, right? Like I think we have done a lot of great things. We've made a lot of mistakes for sure, but I don't want to take away from all the great work that the team has done, the stuff that we have built, and the community who have joined us along the way. Like it was in New York we were like 5-6 people and we were scrambling, and it's a really different beast Sanctum now, like Sanctum V2 so to speak. Many things have changed. It's been crazy.
I'm just genuinely curious. Actually, now we're doing just therapy on camera. Nick, take that down. He's not crying. He's fine. No, but like, I guess the question I have is like if you just look objectively, right? We went from 0 million literally a year ago. You look at the charts. It's like it's zero, like zero.
Yeah.
Cloud, right? Soul stake, excuse me, into Sanctum LSTs, and now we're all the way at 10 million soul stake through Sanctum LSTs, which is like almost like at current soul prices is like 1.8 billion dollars, which is like, does that
1%?
mess with
It's
your...
1%. It's 1%.
There's this. So this thing is that I like to steal phrases from people, especially if I just like how they sound and if they're beautiful. And there's this one particular phrase that FP uses a lot internally that I've taken to stealing, and I use it quite a bit now, is small potatoes. We don't do small potatoes at Sanctum, all right? We want the whole farm, okay? And we don't want just potatoes either. We want the full variety of what life has to give you. So it's like, how does that feel, like having gone from it? Because that 1%, you were in scrappy startup mode is what got you from 0 to 1%, right? And now you're in this position where, holy crap, like I actually have a shot of capturing the other 99%, but it means that you do have to operate in a different way. And I do feel like, and I perceive that there are some very healthy growing pains going on with yourself as an individual, as well as like the company. So I would love to get your perspective on what that process has been like of growing, right? And I know it's been painful for sure, because like so much feedback, everyone's yelling at you.
So I think I had this feeling like the moment we after we T3 and stuff, and I had this feeling like, okay, like we've now stepped into kind of like the big boys table with all the protocols that I respect a lot, like like Jido, right, like Drift, right, Camino, etc., right. And it's like we are now at the big boys table, right? Like we've got to, I've got to step up, and that has been, that's not been easy, but I am really, 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 really grateful for the opportunity to step up, right? Like that, like not many people get to stand here and execute and fuck up, but I'm very grateful to be playing this game, like to be given the chance to kind of step up and play this game. And like I think one of my 2025 like biggest resolutions, like why am I doing this again, right? Because I having been here for almost like 5 years now, like you kind of ask yourself this question, right? And I think the thing that will keep me going, or does keep me going, is like, because I will grow, right? Because I will grow and I will learn and I'll get better, right? Like I know I have like many flaws, right? Many issues, mistakes, right? But like all of this stuff, right? Like I really enjoy the process of growing and learning. And I think like this is the place where, like with everybody's help, I can grow into kind of like the best version of myself.
And like there's another thing that you've said, internally, like in the last team meeting that we had, is that there's this impulse, like you have this, because you're a product guy and you love building beautiful things, you can feel quite like uncomfortable when things are stopping, and like you completely understand the logic behind it, you're on board, but it's like, how is it been learning how to be strategically patient, right? Like I imagine that must have also been just super difficult for you.
That's a big one, and I mean, this is a little bit of a digression, but when you are a scrappy startup, it's all like, let's build this, it's gonna be cool, like and I'm like, hey Troy, build this, and like build that, right? It's a lot of like cowboy, like pew pew, it's like, that's gonna be cool, let's build this, because like what do you have to lose, right? And you're not playing at the same ballpark, right? Like it's kind of like easy mode, you build stuff, you see what works and stuff, like as in. And to be clear, right, like there is room for like experimentation, there is room for like moving quickly and like, all right guys, that's like, but every step of the way now it's a lot more measured, right? It's less like, oh, build this, it's like now there is like, okay, like how we think about this like strategically. Is this going to bring us like what's the ROI of this, right? Is this going to bring to us, like a significant chunk? Like, are we allocating our engineering resources like optimally? Like, is this like we're building this big bet, this big product? Like, what does it mean that we are And it as you point out, like it really rubs me, because when you have a product issue or like the bug is not fixed, it's kind of like a piece of sand that's kind of like rubbing at you. It's like and yeah, part of it is like kind of learning to take a step back. Like when someone's yelling at you, it's like this product's not working. It's like that it's like, hey, learn to let it go, because we have a bigger fish to fry. And all like if we want to be like a 99% machine, right? Then that's where we want to go. And so like that has been a big the other thing that I learned. I know you didn't ask this question, but it's also like learning to like delegate, right? Because like when you are 5 people, I'm calling the shots, but like this is learning, like for example, like Alkine, right? Like he is now kind of like DeFi king, right? Like he knows everything about INF, right? And I have a lot of contacts, and I have this tendency to be like, okay, no, I think we should do that instead. But I think a lot of the times, like he probably knows better, and he's probably right. And so like a lot of my learning is to kind of like step back and say, hey, the people I hired are not better than me, right? And like that's why I hired them, right? And I have to resist that nature to like do a lot of that jumping in, and so because like that's why I got you, right? That's why I got Alkine. That's why I made all these strategic hires, so that you guys can be like more competent and better and more informed and everything, right? And that has been an adjustment for me. Like it's not like learning to kind of like step back and realizing that people like know a lot more than me, which doesn't mean that I'm always wrong or that they're always right, but it's like that's an adjustment. And I'm glad, right? Because I'm glad that not all the thinking has to be done by me. I'm like super happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the core jobs, I think, as leading and making the decisions for the team, is to be an irritant when it's necessary, right? Like if you just allow things to go, on their merry way, like sometimes people just miss stuff. Like and there's been this constant challenge. Both you and another person who I will not name, but is on the team, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, is they're always challenging us to just think bigger. And if I'm being, I feel like we're doing a one-on-one right now, but if I'm being completely honest, like I do find myself sometimes gravitating towards like the smaller items, right? And the reason for that is the smaller items are quick and they can be done, like they don't take up that much time, right? But at the same time, small potatoes, right? And so constantly like having to challenge the way that you prioritize things, and prioritizing things is hard, right? Like the only decisions that come to your desk are the hard decisions, because if it was easy, I would have made the decision myself. Alkine would have made the decision himself. Jay, Jesse, like anybody on the team, the devs, like if it was an easy decision, it wouldn't come to you, right? But by the time it gets to you, what does that mean? It means that something is messed up. It's that there are no good or bad choices. It's like bad and slightly less bad, or like good and like slightly more good. It's like those are the decisions that come to your desk. And so like, yeah, I could imagine. Good luck, brother.
I'm really glad for this one-to-one session that we're doing in front of 10,000 people or whatever. But
okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. But no, I just mean to say that obviously, like, companies are not just the logo and the Twitter account. It's the people who run them. And like for you to understand where a company is and like why you should be bullish on cloud, why you should be bullish on the project, like you actually have to understand the people. And so this has been a moment of immense growth for Sanctum. We also have another key hire that's going to be coming very soon that I think you guys will be very surprised about. I can't wait to announce that. It's going to be sick. He's joining me on the streams going forward. This has been yet another edition of the Sanctum Forecast. We're just going straight into it right now. So closing up, of course, and FP, we're just going to leave you on the stage if you do not mind, kind sir. We of course have the best thread, $50. So like, please submit your best threads for this forecast. And here's something that I am trying to do much better. Okay. Right now, I spend probably 90% of my time on reactive work. Like stuff just comes to my desk and I just take care of it. I'm trying to be better. And the way that I'm specifically trying to be better is to plan things out 2-3 weeks in advance. And right now I have a whole bunch of not tech debt, but like action item debt that I need to crush. But like once I crush that, like I want everything I do to be planned out much more intentionally 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So in that spirit, the next forecast will be in 2 weeks. Okay. It's going to be on May 28th. And we're going to be prepping for that in advance. I mean, we always prep for it in advance. I just mean that the communications for when the forecasts will be much more specific than later or once a month. Like, I'll be very specific. So this time around, we're going to be doing the next forecast in 2 weeks. And the reason why we're going to be doing it in 2 weeks is next week, we're going to be very busy at Accelerate, talking to institutions, allocators of all sizes. And again, we're going to be throwing that lovely side event for institutions as well as the top protocols in Solana. Join the Inner Sanctum. FP, I, of course, give you last words.
You always put me on the spot.
I'm sorry.
Where did you go?
I was giving you the floor.
Ah!
I'm sorry. I apologize. No, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't have anything to say. I mean, okay, I will say this, right? Like, to our community, like I'm super grateful to have like everyone on the team and everyone in the community like supporting us. I think really what we have built here at Sanctum, it's like it's really something special, and I think that like not many protocols manage to build the kind of community that we have built. And I really have you guys to thank for it. I think, like, I mean, yeah, there are companies that execute super well, right? They make a lot of money, and we'll get there. But like, I think in terms of like the love, the vibes, like I think we are the best. Yeah, that one, and yeah, we're the best, and we'll get even better.
Yeah. Coletta, he's a bit late, but he's one of the top influencers in Brazil, and obviously is the original member of the Cloud fam. And we'd love to see you here. Coletta and Italo, our friend at Ironforge, says, I think they might have acquired the ETH Foundation. Probably, they're down bad. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this week's edition of the Sanctum Forecast. We'll be back again in 2 weeks, right after New York's Accelerate. And we can't wait to tell you some more updates and maybe some movement on the institutional side as well. Thank you so much for your time, and adios. Bye. Whew.